So you think you're an 80s fan?
Do you know what this is?
Okay, Wheezy, can you handle this?
I want my MTV!
It's I Love the 80s, and this is 1981. The flicks, the fashions, the trends, the tunes, the TV. A totally awesome year that gave us these burning questions. Was Tom Hanks better looking as a woman?
I love it. He touched me.
Mrs. Ring.
How did this guy get that girl?
I'm a prince. I'm gonna be the next king of England. How you doing?
And can watching scrambled cable porn cause brain damage?
From like 11 to 13 were spent watching naked women and checking to see if my mom was going to wake up or not.
The answers to those questions, plus the Pope under glass, and who said alcoholism isn't funny? Because you loved the 80s. Because you've still got that members-only jacket. Admit it. This is 1981.
I love the 80s. I love the 80s.
Soon television came along and gave us the gift of sight. But it was cable that gave us the freedom of choice.
Cable was the rage.
I'd watch it at the time it came on, to the time it went off.
I don't even know what cable was. It just was better.
Every day we'd come home and go, did the cable guy come yet? We felt like we were Amish, like we were the last town in New Jersey not to get cable. And finally, one day, there it was, and it was just so exciting.
Movies like HBO, I think, was and Cinemax and Showtime, like the first thing we can actually watch a, not made-for-TV movie.
It was just amazing because you had a lot of channels to choose from. It wasn't like the 4 that you were
I want my MTV!
I want my MTV.
My mother was dating a guy that had MTV. And I remember just thinking that she had the greatest boyfriend in the world because I could go over and watch MTV all day.
My friend Drew had MTV, so I'd go over to his house, and Drew's dog used to poop on the rug a lot. So his house didn't smell real good, but it was worth it because he had MTV.
Suddenly, Rod Stewart went from being just some guy in one pose to being a fully realized human being.
MTV rock videos are all sex. We no longer had to shoplift pornography. We could just go turn on the television set.
With cable, along came, a lot of the adult programming. They were not hardcore back in the 80s, they were softcore. So you wouldn't see the penetration, you'd see the bumping and the grinding.
From 11 to 13 were spent watching naked women and checking to see if my mom was going to wake up or not.
You get the Playboy channel and stuff. If you pressed 9, enter, and the off button at the same time, you get the Playboy channel for 2 minutes.
So you check it out or move it one way, you get the channel, then you watch for a second.
Oh my God. You guys just sit here and watch people do this on TV?
I think that was a nipple. No, that's a guy's penis. What?
You'd be trying to masturbate to fuzziness. It was a really tricky art.
It was like masturbating to Picasso. Because the images, you kind of see someone's head and someone's breasts over there. But it was enough. It was enough for me.
They say masturbation causes blindness, but only when you're trying to watch scrambled cable.
Do me now. Ah, do me now.
Totally.
Has anybody seen Mike Pines? Do you know Mike?
I love the movie Porky's. I worship the movie Porky's.
Porky's was the American Pie of our time.
Okay, I'm ready.
A week in the life of the horniest boys in Florida you ever want to meet.
Stampede.
Trying to get there.
Bob, you're right. That's a lot of horny.
It was the dirtiest movie I'd ever seen, but it was just made you think of guys as being these kind of whoring little slimy, creepy crawlers.
There's one character, his name was Meat.
This is the pride of Angel Beach, Anthony Tuparello, affectionately known as Meat.
It's pretty clear what Meat had.
I got the boys deformed.
And then there was Pee-wee.
This is Pee-wee.
I'll say.
And it was pretty clear what Pee-wee had.
Save your energy needle, you're gonna need it.
Okay.
My dad never let me watch Porky's.
And I felt cheated.
I don't know a movie before that so effectively combined just silly comedy with gratuitous nudity.
I felt like I was watching soft porn.
Yeah, I remember thinking, ooh, gosh.
The best part about Porky's was the constant running joke about Lassie.
Why'd he call her Lassie?
Every time he asked, what about her? What about her? The guy goes, oh! He's like, what do you think? She's not a dog, she's hot. And then he finally gets her up into the men's locker room, and when they have sex, she's like, oh!
Kim Cattrall, who's in there as Lassie.
Think about that, one of her first movies.
She definitely set the tone for her career.
The scene where they spy on the girls in the locker room is one that I remember well.
And I just thought, oh, God, is that what high school's going to be like? Thank you.
It was like seeing Jaws and not being able to get in the pool. I saw Porky's and I couldn't take a shower.
Porky's, the first glory hole.
I had never heard of such a thing before Porky's, but since then, I seek it out.
Dear Chicky, Chicky, good Chicky, dear Chicky.
As far as I know, there was no dialogue, there was no story. There were topless girls in glory holes.
I've never seen so much wool. You can knit a sweater.
I love 81.
The president was shot once in the left chest.
I do remember Ronald Reagan getting shot, and it was such a crazy time.
Some guy named John Hinckley had shot him.
Hinckley shoots Reagan in order to impress Jodie Foster.
For Jodie Foster? Like, where did that come in?
That equation is wrong on so many levels.
Hey, I shot the president. Would you like to come have dinner with me?
He wanted to do a little more than the usual flowers and candy.
I think it worked. I've spoken to Jodie about it since, and off the record, she says she was really turned on when he did it.
And then Alexander Haig popping up, talking about he was going to run the country.
As of now, I am in control here in the White House.
I had learned earlier in life the entire chain of command, the flow chart, if you will.
Constitutionally, gentlemen, you have the president, the vice president, and the Secretary of State in that order.
I don't sort of recall the Secretary of State being anywhere near number 3.
I think it goes 1 president, 2 vice president, 3
Speaker of the House. And then I think it jumps to, like, I know at one point it goes to the caterers, which I think is weird.
He was in control. We were in deep let's put it that way.
As of now, I am in control here.
Didn't anybody go to government class? At least you'd think the guy who's Secretary of State would know what the order of succession was and who's really in control.
If the president was shot, I would start yelling, I'm in control too, and just see who believed me.
Red.
Pope getting shot.
Oh, yeah, he got shot. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy.
Yeah, everybody got shot.
I know, everyone got shot in the 80s. That's so 80s.
I think it made him pretty pious. You get shot and live, man, it's like, yeah, I'm not lying, I am the Pope.
And then he visits the guy in jail.
You've got to be pretty cool to forgive the guy who tried to kill you. So, score 1 for JP2.
But it did create the Pope-mobile. Without him getting shot, today we wouldn't have a Pope-mobile.
The Pope-mobile is kind of clownish to me. You know, it's like, here comes the Pope.
It was like, keep your Pope fresh. I think of my Pope spoiling.
Pope-mobile's fresh, man. I don't know why Master P doesn't have one of those, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it's for safety, you know. I mean, I would sure like to have one.
If you remember those board games that came with the dice where you push down the pop thing, it was like the Pope was the dice.
I think I like the Pope-mobile, but until someone verifies what kind of mileage it gets, I'm not ready to endorse it.
The interesting thing is, we don't see him in a bubble now, and he moves a lot slower now. So, you know, go figure.
I love 81. Coming up, moving on up with the Jeffersons.
I think the Jeffersons can be summed up in one word. Wheezy.
Wheezy, wheezy, wheezy. Grappling with the Cube of Doom.
The Rubik's Cube is the perfect 80s toy because in order to figure it out, you need to be on cocaine.
And lusting after another man's woman.
Jesse's girl.
Rick Springfield covets his neighbor's wife, right?
Next on I Love 1981. But first, the makeout songs of 1981.
Ladies and gentlemen, I, Lionel Richie, give you the makeout songs of 1981. Keep on Loving You by REO Speedwagon. Waiting for a Girl Like You by Foreigner. And In This Love by Diana Ross and some guy I can't remember his name. The Makeout Songs of 1981. Do you feel the love? I think you do.
Babes of 81. I'm Brett Michaels, and I bring you the Babes of 1981. Olivia Newton-John, Down Under Babe. Donna Dixon, Bosom Buddies Babe. Valerie Bertinelli, Cute as a Button Babe. Kathleen Turner, Your Body Heat Babe. And of course, Sandra Day O'Connor, Gavel Banging Babe. I always wondered what was under that robe. Babe. Now you have it, the Babes of 1981, and I ought to know. Babes of 81.
The royal wedding was such a huge thing in 1981 because it was like a real true Cinderella story.
I remember everybody wanting to set their alarm clocks really early in the morning to catch that wedding.
I got up at 5 in the morning to watch that wedding. I was obsessed with it.
I couldn't understand it. I think just being an American, I think a lot of Americans were like, what? Who cares?
I thought Princess Diana's wedding dress was spectacular.
I personally found Diana's dress a little too flouncy.
She had that 8,000-foot train behind her.
She looked like she was trapped in a heap of beige hefty bags.
Woo! Is Diana in that dress?
With this ring, I thee wed. I thee wed.
All I could think of is, Chuck, boy, you're marrying way out of your league, pal.
That was the first time, I mean, for the English, we had seen something pretty, because the English aren't that pretty.
A woman needs love just like you do.
Okay, let's just get it out on the table. Charles got a woman like Diana because he was a prince.
The key is his first name, Prince.
That's got to be a great pickup line. I'm a prince. I'm going to be the next king of England. How you doing?
But let me just say this. Even when they got married, I knew that she was too hot for him.
You just knew that this was a woman who would need someone to go down on her every once in a while, and you looked at him and knew that he was not going to be able to do it.
I think the ceremony of it was so astounding, and the pomp and circumstance. It was an incredible event.
General Hospital was so hot in the 80s because of the action.
I was so addicted to General Hospital, I can't even tell you.
People loved the show. It was the heyday of soap operas, when everybody in the world wanted to come to Luke and Laura's wedding. I think that Luke and Laura's wedding was the biggest event in soap opera history.
Luke and Laura, of course. The world was watching it. Had all the ratings.
Aha! Indian summer. What a perfect day for a wedding.
Luke and Laura's wedding. Come on. Who cares? Everybody did.
I'm getting married.
I couldn't believe how many heavy metal guys knew about this. What's wrong with you guys?
Nice day for a white wedding.
My boys knew about it. I never watched the stories, but everybody knows who Luke and Laura were.
Start again.
We are gathered here to celebrate the marriage of two people.
It was huge. It was like on the cover of People magazine and newspapers.
It almost felt like it was a royal couple getting married or something.
It was great because I think of Tony Geary's poem.
I, Lucas Lorenzo Spencer.
The fact that he had raped her at the beginning of their relationship.
Yes. Oh, my God. Yeah, like he raped her.
I, Laura Weber Baldwin.
He had raped her? That's the storyline?
Take me, Lucas Lorenzo Spencer.
And then they became lovers. Whatever, only in a soap. Come on. And Oz.
To be my lawful wedded husband.
Really good message. Marry your rapist.
I pronounce that they are husband and wife. You may kiss the bride.
Luke and Laura was the quintessential story of boy rapes girl, boy gets girl. Yeah, sure, that works.
I love anyone.
I thought you were supposed to be at the wedding.
Yeah, I planned on it.
Rick Springfield.
Rick Springfield was a pretty good-looking guy.
He was just dreamy.
Rick Springfield was hot.
Paging Dr. Noah Drake to ICU to treat a case of heartbreak.
When he came onto General Hospital, he was getting very popular at that point because of his music.
That was the era where rock stars would come on soap operas.
I've been here since 1972, through some pretty rough times, and I feel just now that the time I put into it is starting to pay off.
Dr. Noah Drake, Rick Springfield, big pop star by night. Doctor by day, right?
Yeah, I thought Rick Springfield was sexy. He had a little lady in him, though, wouldn't you say? There was something little lady about him.
Well, this is the silliest thing I've ever heard.
Only actor I know of who really actually did some really good songs.
When I heard Jesse's Girl, it's a bomb.
Rick Springfield covets his neighbor's wife, right? For the right price, maybe you could have Jesse's Girl.
Jesse's girl. I wish that I had Jesse's girl. It was wonderful to have an opportunity to work with him. He's a great kisser.
Red. Arthur, a drunk millionaire, seeks ways to stay drunk and a millionaire.
Who can resist a raging alcoholic?
That's funny.
What is funnier than seeing a millionaire in desperate need of counseling and liver transplants?
My buddy Dean and I went to see it. We laughed so hard because my dad drank so much, and we weren't rich. And I thought, wow, if you're actually rich and drunk, it's funny.
I'll fit out of the car!
Sir John Gielgud was such a great straight man.
Do you know what I'm going to do?
No, I don't.
He was a great snob.
I'm going to take a bath.
I'll alert the media.
His delivery was so elegant.
You want to run my bath for me?
That's what I live for.
Such a sophisticated Shakespearean actor. Say things like,
Perhaps you'd like me to come in there and wash your for you. You little.
One thing I do remember from Arthur, of course, was the Christopher Cross tune.
If you get caught between the moon and New York City.
I know it's crazy, but it's true.
the rich have all this money, but they're miserable and unhappy just like you and me until they find love. You know, I think that was kind of the enduring message of Arthur.
I love 81.
Hi, 9.
Hi, I'm Tracy Elizabeth Lords, and I bring you the hunks of 1981.
Will this one do?
Patrick Duffy, South Fork hunk.
Nasty voice.
Burt Reynolds, Hunk Hall of Fame hunk. Harrison Ford, whip-wielding hunk. Mick Jagger, Start Me Up hunk. And Richard Simmons, It's Not a Diet, It's a Live It hunk. There they are, the men of 1981. 100% USDA prime hunk.
Hunks of 81.
I adored The Greatest American Hero.
First of all, great show.
The storyline, it's brilliant. Get ready.
Look at what's happened to me.
High school teacher is given superhero outfit by aliens.
It's a suit. It will work on Mr. Hinckley, nobody else.
But, and here's the catch,
I lost the instruction book.
so he has no idea how to control the powers of the superhero suit.
We'll figure it out now, Butterfingers.
FBI agent teams up with him.
Talk about a genius premise for a television show. That's just great.
White people flying have always fascinated me, from Superman on down.
I just used to run around all the time with a towel around my neck, and that was one of the big reasons, you know.
You know, honestly, I think the song for Greatest American Hero outlived the show.
I never thought I could feel so free, flying away on a wing in a prayer. Who could it be? Believe it or not, it's just me.
The song was definitely
definitely bigger because I don't remember the show, but I know the song.
I think I jumped off the roof of my house for the first time because of Greatest American Hero. And I landed safely, so I'm not forming any kind of lawsuit here.
Gnarly.
I love the DeLorean car.
They were insane because they were stainless steel and they were kind of like these space cars.
With the doors that opened up like that.
It had like a Volvo motor in it, and every automotive journalist just ripping the car apart.
The problem with it was that if you park in a parking lot and there are two cars right here and you open your door, you go...
John DeLorean, good-looking guy, you know, kind of suave and charming.
If you're going to create a car, why not name it after yourself?
A guy who has to buy a fancy car has a small penis. I got to think a guy who names a car after himself must have a vagina. It was kind of shaped like a vagina if you think about it.
It was kind of like a maxi pad with wings.
You're like, how's this guy funding all these cars, man? I don't get where he's getting all his money from. He made like $100,000 last year. You know what I mean? And then you heard, you know, white lines. You know, that's when Grandmaster Flash got huge.
Sports car executive John DeLorean is in a Los Angeles jail this morning. He's charged in connection with a $24 million cocaine deal.
They finally started selling because John DeLorean was busted for cocaine trafficking. So I thought it was an amazing marketing campaign. Car sucks, car's not doing really well, get busted for coke, boom, sales go through the roof.
It became hipper when DeLorean went under for the drug case. Everybody wanted a DeLorean because they was like, yo, now this is a collector's item.
Where's he now? They locked him in his car. That was his punishment.
Mr. DeLorean got a little taste for the cocaine, and that was the end of the DeLorean. Very sad. Very, very sad.
I love 81.
Do you know what this is?
Rubik's Cube is the perfect 80s toy because in order to figure it out, you need to be on cocaine.
The Rubik's Cube was sort of my nemesis, and to this day, I still don't know how to do it.
I can do the Rubik's Cube. I don't know if we have that much time, though.
This is a cube with colors on it, and you turn it like this.
They say a Rubik's Cube is a pretty good test of intelligence.
You have to line all the colors up.
I would do this for about 5-10 minutes and then take it and kick it across the room.
Whoever came up with this was some real next level stuff right here.
I love that some guy from a country called Hungary made it.
The first time I tried to solve it, I was the only person dealing with the cube, and it took about a month.
Usually it takes about 20 seconds. Whoops, sorry. There you go.
On your mark, get set, go.
I remember that there used to be contests. There would be contests of who could do the Rubik's Cubes the fastest.
What's your best time ever?
1 minute and 21 seconds.
What we did was we rip it apart and put it back together. You just take it all apart. That's the whole trick to it. And when your friend was looking, you go, look, dude.
I also figured out that if you peel the colors off of the thing, you can just peel them off and then just retape them on.
I could spend 8 hours at a stretch with this thing, and I'd never come close.
It make you just want to keep turning it, you know what I'm saying?
Thanks, Rubik's Cube.
Celebrate good times, come on.
That was our biggest celebration.
I've never been to a wedding or a bar mitzvah or an anniversary, you know, where they don't play Celebration.
That was a terrible video. Yeah, that was the beginning of where you just did the shot, you know, the band's just playing. To create the energy. It's like you got 10,000 people out there. Just make it happen. Do your thing.
That was a cool song. That made your knees freeze and your bladder splatter.
This is so great. We're so glad that the people love Celebration. I'm most appreciative to all the fans. Thank you very much.
Totally.
Live from the Los Angeles Basin, it's Friday.
I loved Fridays. Fridays was like a younger, hipper kind of Saturday Night Live. It didn't last that long, though. It was like gone.
There was Saturday Night Live, and then on Friday there was going to be Fridays, but it didn't work out like that.
Someone tried to do Saturday Night Live on Fridays when no one's home.
I don't remember any of the characters from Fridays, and if you do, there's something wrong with you.
Starring Harry Davis, Michael Richards.
He did some great sketches.
God, that was such a funny character.
And there's nothing I love more than Larry David's hair on that show. He was really working the white man's afro.
I think I agreed with the general sentiment of the time, which was that this is terrible.
You won't hear us mention the E-R-A.
And no one connected with the show is gay.
There's no question that the most memorable thing about the TV show Fridays was when Andy Kaufman went off book.
Oh, help me, oh.
Andy Kaufman worked out this thing with, I think, the executive producer, where he was just going to basically be off book for the entire episode, and nobody else would know about it.
Feel stupid.
You feel stupid.
Very stupid. Which is like a legendary piece of television where Andy Kaufman wouldn't do the skit that they wanted him to do, and he and Michael Richards get into an actual fight.
So you cut it out. But why do you have to push it to my face?
All of a sudden, the fight broke out. It was like a fist fight. And I thought, wow, this is either the best or the worst writing I've ever seen in my life.
He knew 10 years later that would be really funny. At the time, it was a disaster for everybody.
Everyone's so tight around here. I don't understand.
It's brilliant television when you think about it. That's probably the only interesting thing that ever happened on that show.
Body's going commercial, man.
I love anyone.
1, 2.
Stripes.
Stripes is my flick.
I was in that movie. That was my first movie.
What coordinates, sir?
For 10 years, we quoted that movie.
Have that removed.
Have that removed. Army training, sir.
That's the Fat Jack.
That's the fact, Jack.
Bill Murray was the personification of hip in that film.
All we have to do
He had all the trappings of making a big speech, but it was all just pure silliness.
is to be the great American fighting soldier.
Well, Bill Murray, obviously, comedic genius.
I'm going to volunteer my leadership to this platoon. An army without leaders is like a foot without a big toe.
When you team him up with John Candy like that, man, you were laughing before he even did his line.
I swallowed a lot of aggression, along with a lot of pizzas. Pizzas.
Harold Ramis, he's a genius. Still is today.
You're kidding.
He was a very funny straight man, which is not easy to be.
In every scene, he's cracking a smile.
No, John, no.
I'll drive.
Okay.
Stripes, the gist of it is that they're failing upwards, where you can get a bunch of boneheads who just somehow, some way, get seen in the right place and just move up.
That's the fact, Jack. That's the fact, Jack.
I love anyone.
Coming up.
And now, anyone.
Hello, Weird Al Yankovic here. Let's take a look at how the world has changed since 1981, shall we? Tom Cruise. Then, he appeared in his first movie, Endless Love, which made $33 million. Now, he makes $25 million all by himself. How about movie tickets? Then, they were $3. Now, $10! What a ripoff! Unless, of course, I'm in the movie. And finally, suntan lotion. Then, you fried yourself with tanning oil. Now, you can cake yourself in Hawaiian Tropics ozone, SPF 70. Try it. It's fun and vaguely erotic.
And now, anyone.
That's it. No more Mrs. Nice Guy.
1981, Bosom Buddies.
I just remember loving Bosom Buddies.
Hi, Lily. Hi, Lily. Hi, Long.
Bosom Buddies was excellent. Who was in that? It was Tom Hanks and Peter Scolari.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You take two guys who have nowhere to live, and they've got to find shelter. So what do?
So they dress up as women so they can live in a boarding home for women.
I think they're playing the cousins or brothers of the women characters that they're playing in the thing, and it's like totally convoluted.
And the wackiness ensued.
Bosom Buddies, of course, was the launching pad for Peter Scolari.
Peter who?
Are you saying I need a rewrite?
That Peter Scolari is going to be a megastar.
You make me sick. Too butch, Hildy, too butch, way too butch.
Tom Hanks? Come on. You knew he was a genius then.
I just remember as a kid thinking, that guy's funny, it makes me laugh.
I think I broke a nail. He does this thing where he talks and then he screams. He's screaming. He gets really excited and he screams. Hello, Sonny. How are you?
And Tom Hanks is going to make a career out of it.
Peter Scolari was in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the TV show.
Liz and Buddies, I was a big fan of at the time because the men in dresses thing appealed to me. And the comedy of men in dresses has sort of ancient appeal.
It was a sort of a Some Like It Hot for 80s audiences.
That's perfect! They were very ugly women, and yet they got hit on all the time.
I love it. He touched me.
Neither Peter nor Tom Hanks are pretty guys.
This isn't nice. I loved it, and it didn't last long. Maybe, 2.5 seasons or something like that?
It was ridiculous, and it was bad. But it was bad good.
Can we turn off this?
Red.
I remember watching John McEnroe in 1981. In fact, he won Wimbledon that year.
John McEnroe. Boy, he made that sport fun. You know what I mean? It's fun for years to come.
Wasn't he throwing rackets around back then?
Johnny Mac, don't chase me with a tennis racket.
Love him. Love the passion.
He was just so pissed off that it made him kind of cool and hot.
He was a rock star on the lawn.
Bruce Springsteen's sidekick, John Patrick McEnroe Jr.
John McEnroe came up with a few legendary tantrums and meltdowns.
It was fun to watch him get out of control.
You'd see him just flip out, and then he just goes back, takes a little ball and plays.
I think a lot of people probably watched him just for that reason.
John McEnroe's behavior back in the day is what made him, who he is, and we like that.
Private eyes watching you.
My favorite group of the 80s was Hall & Oates, man. They churned out hits like you would not believe, man. The cool thing about Hall & Oates was they crossed over big time.
They were just white boys from Philly who, knew how to work a groove.
They were the weirdest pairing to figure out.
There was something Ponch and John about Hall & Oates.
People can say, oh, look at those hilarious videos. But if you're talking about Daryl Hall, it's one of the greatest white blues soul singers that's ever walked the planet Earth.
I love 81.
How you doing? I'm a member.
When you remember the 80s, you tend to remember the hideous things like members-only jackets.
Members-only was that was the thing.
Everybody had a members-only jacket. I was a big members-only jacket guy.
I'm embarrassed to admit I had one, yes.
I thought I was looking good. That thing coming down?
The members-only jacket screamed midlife crisis. It screamed I just got divorced and I don't know where I belong anymore. Oh, look, I found a club.
I had a purple one and a burgundy one. He couldn't tell me nothing.
Some were like a satin finish, some were a flat finish.
I bought a black one because we all wanted black, but then I also bought a peach.
Oh!
What could be more scuzzy than a slightly dirty beige members-only jacket? Like only a pervert would wear that.
It's like sports sack made into a jacket. Snaps, zippers.
You push the sleeves up. Ooh, you look tight. Sleeves pushed up, zipped up. Got your little neck snap on.
You were cool if you had a members-only jacket back then. You wouldn't be caught dead in one maybe 2 years later.
My Uncle Freddie passed away. They buried him in his leather members-only jacket. And now they're together forever.
Gnarly.
I loved Atari.
You were all over Atari.
I remember sitting there like, you couldn't get me off it.
I used to get all hot and sweaty and all funky and because you get all into the game and stuff like that.
It was like you never had to leave the house again, fortunately.
Atari 2600, I remember just being this big thing.
With this big hunkin' joystick.
You had the one joystick.
Just this stick-looking thing that you moved around.
You had the red button on it. That's all you needed. And then you stuck the little 8-track looking thing right in the center.
You go, and they go, and kill you.
The graphics, they were primitive, to say the least.
The graphics on the video games back then sucked.
I don't think any of them were actually really good.
The drag was I had to have it in my mom's room so she could monitor how much time I spent on the video game.
Then some of the games on Atari, let's be honest, were like not that hot.
Space Invaders. I love Space Invaders because the sound of it was like the first metal song I'd ever heard in my life. It sounds a lot like Metallica. That
rocked at Defender. I remember, and then I had the high score going, and my sister made me turn it off because she wanted to watch Solid Gold. I don't think I need to say any more about that.
I love anyone.
Well, we're moving on now. To the east side.
The Jeffersons are moving on up to the east side. If I didn't get that right, they'd take away my black card.
I was addicted to the Jeffersons. There's nothing better. There's nothing better than George Jefferson calling someone a honky.
Let's play pin and tail on the honky.
George Jefferson, he was the black Archie Bunker.
He's a guy who just sort of come up from through the ranks and determined to make it, ambitious.
Sherman has been so off the charts great.
Oh, that's it. Yes, oh, marvelous. That's heaven.
What a visual. You know, of this black guy moving on up, going to the east side, getting successful, and walking on the back of a white guy and calling him honky. Genius.
I think the Jeffersons can be summed up in one word: wheezy.
Wheezy, 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 wheezy.
The Jeffersons will always go down as the only way the word wheezy was injected into the American lexicon.
We're nothing but his token zebra couple.
The Willises was the first interracial marriage on television.
I didn't think she'd go for that dude. Like, they seemed a little oddly matched.
The white guy on there couldn't have been any dorkier.
Whatever you say, George.
Mr. Willis was extremely white. He reminded me of the Monopoly guy. That's how white he was.
The highlight of the Jeffersons at the end of the day, though, was Marla Gibbs.
That's the door, Florence.
It sure is.
Florence, she was great. She was always there with the little one-liner.
Florence, what about the turkey?
Don't worry, Turkey. That's plenty for you. When I talk back, I really talk back for all the working people.
It's just so great. And the stories were fun.
I think the Jeffersons was really such a hit because we reflect the society as a whole.
Good one.
Coming up, it was one of the coolest weapons of the 80s, not to mention a little bit naughty.
There's something sexy about the whip. It's that sort of weird, strange S&M thing we all got going on in our minds.
Next on I Love 1981. But first, Mr. and Ms. 1981.
Hey, it's the Dice Man with the moment you've all been waiting for. Time to name Mr. and Ms. 1981. I can't wait. He was a mustache and a cheap Hawaiian shirt who made chicks everywhere wet. Sounds like me, huh? She was an innocent little girl from Scotland who hadn't met Prince yet. I'm Selig and Sheena Reesden. Mr. and Ms. 1981. Eh?
Born in 81.
I'm Soleil Moonfry. Here's a look at some of 1981's very special births. Alicia Keys and Beyonce Knowles. The Laptop, Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears. The Thong, Serena Williams and Metallica. There it is, the miracle of life, 80s style.
Born in 81.
Bum-ba-da.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, finally making archaeology cool.
I loved Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I still do. I still rent that movie now.
They did the hell out of it. They did it great. Archaeologists had been waiting decades for somebody to come along and say, hey, digging up pottery shards from the Incas is cool. You're really cool.
I think Harrison Ford is really hot, so...
Harrison Ford's the coolest actor ever. He was always the thinking man's action hero.
Chamber 3 was undisturbed.
I love the fact that Indiana Jones could teach a class and wield a big bullwhip.
The whip thing's kind of an interesting weapon of choice. There's something sexy about the whip. It's that sort of weird, strange S&M thing we all got going on in our minds.
The coolest thing about Indiana Jones is that he was human, that for all his charades, for all his drama, he was afraid of snakes. So you could identify with him.
Why did it have to be snakes?
Oh, snakes. It had to be snakes. I think most guys, if they're honest, I think it's bugs. I think it's Spiders and bugs bug us more than snakes.
Harrison Ford's punches. When he hit somebody, it was very distinct.
My favorite scene in the movie is when they open up the Ark at the end and all the Nazis' faces melt. It was all very Edvard Munch. Not that I was really into Norwegian painting at that point, but I do remember that they all had that.
But I like that. The way you prevent the wrath of God from shooting laser beams through your chest.
Shut your eyes, Murray, and don't look at it no matter what happens.
Close your eyes. Look away. We're good. We're good. No, don't look. We're good.
Well, obviously, Raiders of the Lost Ark was sort of the last gasp from Harrison Ford. I mean, he was a flash in the pan. We never heard much from him again. A good note to go out on.